Hello YouTube, my name is Nero. Today we have some more Call of Duty Modern Warfare Remastered. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Today I thought I would do an updated creative class guide here for Modern Warfare Remastered. It's been about 10 months since my last one, and I realize people are going to be playing Call of Duty World War II here in a couple of weeks, but I have a feeling people are always going to be coming back to play this game, so I thought for those people, I would update you and let you know what classes I'm going to be rocking. I'm trying to keep this video rather short, but there are 15 classes I'm going to try and cover here in this video, so I'm going to try and do as fast as I can. Don't expect it to be a slightly longer video than normal. And before we get into that, I would like to actually give you guys 3 rules of thumb for my classes. So number 1, I rock the Deagle as my secondary all the time. It's my favorite pistol in the game. Number 2, I prefer stuns over flashes and smoke, so that's going to be on every class as well. And it's number 3, I really hate grenade spam here in Modern Warfare Remastered. In fact, it's my least favorite thing about the game. So I will not be recommending frag times 3 or special grenades times 3. As powerful as they may be, I don't think the community should be using them because it's just how freaking broken they are and how much they can really ruin the gameplay experience. I'm a big believer that gun skill here in Modern Warfare Remastered should trump everything, so these classes are going to help you get better at gun skill as compared to spamming grenades across the map, which, let's face it, anybody can do that. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's hop right into the classes. The first class here is going to be the AK-47 with no attachments and Juggernaut. Now, the reason why we run no attachments on the AK-47 is there's actually a very odd quirk with this gun. If you rock a red dot sight, it actually has much less damage at a distance than it would otherwise. Same thing is true of the suppressor, so we always run no attachments on the AK. And when it comes to Juggernaut versus stopping power is just fine. It really is, and I recommend if you want to use stopping power on this gun, throw on deep impact as well and just melt people through walls. It's fantastic. But when I use the AK-47, I like to use Juggernaut and steady aim, and the reason why is it turns this gun into a jack of all trades. I can use it up close, I can use it at a distance, it protects me a little bit from snipers and people camping with M16s and light machine guns. It turns the AK-47 into a very versatile rifle, even more so than it already is by default. And when I'm using this gun, I rarely think to myself, I want you guys to think about this as well. When you're using the AK, do you think to yourself, man, I wish this gun was more powerful? Rarely does that actually happen, right? Most of the time, you end up dying and think, wow, how'd that guy kill me? If you're using Jug and you take advantage of the damage reduction that Juggernaut gives you, suddenly the AK-47 is an even better rifle, at least in my opinion. So if you haven't tried out the Jug AK, I can highly recommend it. Give it a try. You will not be disappointed. Next up, we have the M4 Carbine with a red dot sight, stopping power, and deep impact. So unlike the AK-47, I recommend stopping power at all times with the M4. And the reason why is the M4 has very low damage by default, whereas the AK has very high damage by default. The M4 also has an incredibly high fire rate and little to no recoil. It does have a lot of idle sway. These sights move around quite a bit, but if you can get used to that, that's really the only downside of this weapon. It's pretty much a laser that you can snipe people across the map with. I would say it's one of the easiest guns in the game to use, whether you're a brand new player or a veteran of 10 plus years. This gun's ridiculously good and ridiculously powerful, and I recommend this setup, guys. Stopping power and deep impact. Even though this gun does not have very good damage by default, its accuracy combined with deep impact and stopping power mean you can shred people through walls, you can take them out at a distance, you can take them out up close. It's a very good and versatile weapon overall. Next up, we have the M16 class, and chances are you already have your own M16 class, but this is how I personally run mine, the exact same way that I run the M4 Carbine, but with the M16. There's a reason why this gun has the reputation that it does. It's ridiculously broken in this game, way too powerful. If you do not run a suppressor, which will reduce your damage at a distance, and you are running stopping power, you can one burst people across the map with this thing. Of course, you have all the accuracy of a burst rifle, and that's including up close, by the way. Like, hip firing with an M16, even without steady aim, is very good. The gun itself is just way too good here for Modern Warfare Remastered. There's a reason why it has the negative stigma that it does, and for those reasons, I actually don't use the gun all that much. I got gold camo for it when the game first came out, but I haven't really used it all that much since then because it just isn't that much fun to use, being so broken and all. But that's how I personally run my M16. Chances are some of you guys want to see that. Bandolier, stopping power, and deep impact with the red dot sight. Next up, we have one of my favorite weapons to use in Modern Warfare Remastered, the double tap Scorpion. The Scorpion is wildly underused here in this game, and for good reason. It's pretty weak, especially compared to some of the other submachine guns, but it has a couple of interesting quirks, one of them being it does 50 damage by default up close, even without stopping power. So if you're in bad breath distance with somebody, you can actually kill them in just 2 shots with the Scorpion. You throw on double tap here, suddenly the Scorpion is shooting faster than the MP5 or the AK-74U. It's shooting actually pretty quickly. It's not the fastest in the game, aim, but it fires rather quick, and at the same time, it still has no recoil. Now, of course, you are going to be having a weapon that you're going to have to reload pretty frequently because it has a 20-round magazine by default, and you're just firing through all your bullets very quick, but man, it's so much fun to use. I actually dedicated an entire video to this particular class setup. Try it out. If you've been wanting to use the Scorpion, but you can't find a way to actually make it viable, this is how you do it. It's very fun. It's going to take a while to get used to, but once you get it down, it's one of the most fun ways to play Modern Warfare Remastered, in my opinion. Next up, we have two different classes surrounding my most used weapon here in Modern Warfare Remastered, the P90. The reason why the P90 is my most used gun is because it is my non-stopping power submachine gun of choice. I use it with my Juggernaut class, as you guys are seeing right here, and I also use it with my UAV Jammer class. So with UAV Jammer, of course, you're going to be running a suppressor. What's the point of running UAV Jammer with no suppressor? Extreme conditioning to get into the enemy spawn a lot faster and get out of trouble a lot easier, and of course, Bandolier, because all the extra ammo is going to help you live longer, because chances are you're going to be going on some big streaks by the very nature that you're hiding from the UAV. The reason why I rock the P90 as my Juggernaut / UAV Jammer gun is because of how versatile it really is. You have a 50-round magazine by default, which is incredibly forgiving of poor accuracy, while at the same time, you also have a very fast fire rate. I'll admit the damage is not all that great, but you have little to no recoil, a giant magazine, and a fast fire rate. It's very good without stopping power, and we're going to be using stopping power on a couple of the other guns that I'm going to be featuring here in this video. The next two classes are actually going to be pretty similar. So we have the MP5 here with a red dot sight, bandolier, stopping power, and steady aim. And then we have the AK-74U, no attachments, bandolier, stopping power, and steady aim. So what is the difference between these two? On the 74U, I kind of use it to bridge the gap between a submachine gun and an assault rifle. If you guys don't know, the 74U is basically an assault rifle in submachine gun's clothing. It has assault rifle style idle sway, has assault rifle wall penetration, and if you decide to put on a red dot sight or a silencer or a suppressor, whichever you want to call it, it's actually going to go ahead and make it so you have assault rifle style hipfire accuracy. That is right, if you put on either of those attachments, your hipfire accuracy becomes much worse. The AK-74U and the MP5 are actually very similar. They have the exact same damage, the exact same range, and the exact same fire rate. The key differences are in the handling characteristics. I would say the MP5 is a little bit better at being a quote-unquote submachine gun because it's a bit faster, right? Everything is a little bit more quick on the MP5 as compared to the 74U, whereas the 74U feels more like an assault rifle because even though they have the exact same damage and the exact same range and the exact same fire rate, it has more manageable recoil and better iron sights, at least in my opinion. So give or take, they're both very good. You can pick your poison, but I personally love both of them. I've maxed out the MP5 and I'm very close to finishing up everything on the AK-74U as well. They're both very good and I can recommend both of them to you guys. But again, stopping power, very good. If you're going to be using Juggernaut, I recommend Juggernaut on the P90. Next, we have my shotgun class of choice, the W1200. I'm going to be rocking no attachments because attachments are kind of useless on this gun, especially the grip. It's just, you give up your first perk for really no benefit. We're going to be rocking RPGs, Juggernaut, and steady aim. So RPGs, because it's always good to have a couple of RPG classes to shoot down enemy helicopters. And let's face it, guys, whether we want to admit it or not, when you're using a shotgun, you're probably going to die more often than if you're using a submachine gun or an assault rifle, right? So chances are you're the person helping give them those helicopters. Use the RPGs, help shoot them down, and alternatively, you can also use the RPGs as a form of a ranged attack, though it's very newbie and it's very inconsistent. I recommend finding a primary off the ground and using that as your ranged attack on this class. When it comes to perk 2, I always recommend Juggernaut on this class, and here is why. When I'm using a shotgun, whether or not I get a kill is basically determined by how close I can get to them, right? If they're camping at the end of a hallway and they're putting shots into me, it's very good for me to be able to eat a couple more shots and get close enough to them, right? That extra damage reduction that you get from Juggernaut can mean the difference between a death or a kill. You can make an argument for sleight of hand or double tap or UAV jammer, but for me personally, in all my experience with this game, Juggernaut helps me out the most, getting close enough to my opponent to actually take them out. Like, you can use UAV jammer and get behind enemy lines, which is great, but if you fire once, they know where you are. So when I use the shotgun, I go loud and proud. Juggernaut, hip firing with steady aim. It's fantastic, and that's what I recommend to all of you guys. Next up, we have my sniper rifle class of choice, the no attachment M40A3 with RPGs, stopping power, and steady aim. So you could make the argument that you should not run the reg scope and instead run the ACOG. If you guys don't know, there's a very interesting quirk with the ACOG M40. If you're using stopping power and they are not using Juggernaut, you can one-shot your target anywhere in the body, including their toes, which is kind of incredible. But for me, when I rock a sniper rifle, rifle, I use it for the sniper scope and the long range capabilities of it, right? So I prefer no attachments. I run RPGs for the same reason as I use them on shotguns. I have stopping power because it's required to make the M48-3 a one-shot kill. And really, you can run whatever you want as a perk 3 on a bolt action sniper. And hardcore, definitely run deep impact because deep impact is like brokenly OP in hardcore. But if you're in standard modes, I mean, deep impact helps out with collaterals, but that's pretty much it. Extreme conditioning is okay. Steady aim is okay, especially when swapping to your secondary and hip firing with your deagle to take them out very quickly. These perks are stupid. Iron Lungs is actually pretty great on snipers, especially when you're not using ACOGs. It doesn't work on ACOG. Eavesdrop is meh, and then Dead Silence is obviously going to be good in certain situations, especially in Search and Destroy. I also recommend when it comes to your sniper class, don't blindly go to the M48-3. Like, I get that the M40 is the most iconic sniper in this game. It's everybody's favorite, but it's also the weakest in terms of damage, right? Juggernaut users will be the bane of your existence. Once you're comfortable sniping in this game, I recommend moving on over to the R700 or the Barrett 50 cal. Both of these guns are clunkier and more difficult to use than the M48-3, but they actually do more damage. They have better damage multipliers, I should say, which allow you to actually one-shot kill Juggernaut users in the upper chest, whereas the M48-3 cannot do that. So lots of things to consider when going for a sniper class, but how can you not recommend the tried and true M48-3? Next, we have our first light machine gun here in this video, the M60E4 with a red dot sight, bandolier, double tap, and steady aim. So this class is more of a joke class than anything, but it's actually a lot of fun. So the M60 does 50 damage by default up close, which means it really doesn't need stopping power. Like, no matter what, even while not using stopping power, the M60 will be a 2 to 3 shot kill at any range. Up close, up to a good distance, it's a 2-shot kill. At far distances, it's going to be a 3-shot kill. I rock double tap because it actually increases the fire rate up substantially, which actually makes it so you can compete with submachine guns up close, and it's really fun to use. It's not the best class in the world, but I recommend you guys try this class out. It's actually very fun to use, and you're going to be surprised at how powerful it can actually be in a lot of different situations. I've had a lot of very good games using this setup here. Again, it may take some getting used to, similar to the double tap Scorpion, but the double tap M60 is wildly fun here in Modern Warfare Remastered. Next up, I'm going to be giving you guys some class recommendations for some of the DLC weapons available here in Modern Warfare Remastered. Now, I understand not everybody has access to DLC guns, myself included. There are a lot of them that I've yet to actually have access to, but I'm going to give you guys some recommendations for some of the DLC guns that I actually do have access to. The first one here is going to be the BOS-14. I run a silencer with stopping power. People will tell you to not run stopping power on this gun because it has a very unique damage profile. Believe me, run stopping power. What stopping power does is no matter what, even while using a silencer, this gun is a 2 to 3 shot kill at any range. If you take off stopping power, it becomes a 4-shot kill at a distance. So rock this, no matter what, 3-shot kill. It is honestly probably the best full auto assault rifle in the entire game, even though it's a DLC weapon. People don't talk about that very much, but in my opinion, the BOS-14 is the best full auto assault rifle in the entire game. It's ridiculously good, and this is the setup I actually run with it. Next up, we have the Hipfire Only Ranger double barrel shotguns. These things are a lot of fun to use, but they're also kind of hard to use at the same time. I prefer using sleight of hand because you do reload a ton while using these, and I use extreme conditioning because I have found that I really don't need steady aim. Despite these being Hipfire Only, steady aim doesn't seem to help me out all that much, and of course, you can't use any attachments on these, and I use RPGs because RPGs are just a good thing to have on a shotgun class. Next up, we have the Beretta Mark VIII, and I love this gun for this one situation alone. Do you know those games of domination where the other team is losing by double their score, but they're all still sitting back, not playing the objectives, sitting with their sniper rifles or camping in corners or doing whatever? This gun counters that pretty much entirely, right? So the Beretta Mark VIII has a very interesting damage profile, which makes stopping power not all that beneficial. It helps it out a little bit, but not so much that you actually want to run it. So I run Juggernaut on this class setup, and I can just take out snipers at sniper ranges while using my Juggernaut light machine gun. This gun is very powerful at a distance. It doesn't really kick whatsoever. I run Deep Impact on here because even though it's a light machine gun, Deep Impact still benefits it greatly because it actually allows you to shred through walls even easier, even if you're not using stopping power. And of course, Bandolier, because Bandolier is very nice to have if you're going to be alive for a very long time. As you can see from the gameplay here, the gameplay speaks for itself. I mean, this gun against snipers on big maps is ridiculously good. This is my anti-sniper class right here. I recommend it to all of you guys if you have access to the Mark VIII. Finally, we have the Fang 45. 45. I would argue that the Fang 45 is not exactly the best SMG in the world, but it's a fun SMG to use nonetheless, and it breaks the monotony of always using, you know, the MP5, the 74U, and the P90. This is a good gun overall. If you have access to it, I recommend it, and also try out the red dot sight with Juggernaut. It's a very good overall SMG. You can use a suppressor, you could use stopping power. It's not very good, but stopping power, keep in mind, it has a weird damage profile. It only helps you at a distance, but you can use stopping power. You can try double tap. You can use wherever you want, but for me personally, I've always found the most success running Juggernaut and a red dot sight here on the Fang 45. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's all I have for you guys here in this video. I hope you guys all enjoyed it. Those are my classes here for Modern Warfare Remastered. We have, of course, 11 different ones using regular guns available in the game, and then, of course, we have 4 extra classes covering a couple of the DLC weapons that are available. What are your favorite class setups? Share them with us down there in the comment section below. Thank you all so much for listening, and I hope you guys all have a wonderful day.